We're now live, Chairman.
I'd like to wake everybody in virtual presence, our members and people watching online, to the October meeting of Winwick Parish Council. I'll take us through the agenda. Apologies for absence, item 1.
None received, Chair.
Sue Emery's trying to log on. She's having difficulty.
Well, we'll continue, and perhaps Sue will join us at as we. Oh, we've lost Graham. The cursor. Told you why I was feeling apprehensive. If Graham comes back, if not, he may have just turned his video off, so I presume we can hear and continue. The code of conduct, it's the usual declarations of interest. Members are reminded to their responsibility declare disclosure of all pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests at any item of business on the agenda no later when that item is reached, and the clerk is always available to discuss matters should they arise. I'm not aware of any conflicts with anybody so this evening, but if we do get to something in, I'm sure members will declare one. Now the fun part of the meeting, as far as I'm concerned, number 3, the minutes, to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on 22nd of September. And I will go through them a couple of pages at a time. If people want to raise anything, either as a matter of accuracy or for matters of rising, other than items that are already on the agenda. We do have 16 items on part 1 of the agenda. So pages 3 and 4. 5 and 6. I wanted to point to page 6, which is, I take it we've had no correspondence about covenants, because we did put a plea out if anybody had got covenants, then where these covenants are, they've been much reported, but since the deeds have gone missing, we are all in the dark. Nothing's come forward.
Chair, no, I've not received anything.
Item 7, I noticed that the litter picker, I believe, is on the agenda, isn't it? Litter picking service somewhere?
Yes.
Part 2, Chair.
Isn't it?
In part 2, indeed, that's why I couldn't see it. So we can discuss it there. And I'd like to make sure that we do actually get some minutes out of that in some point for part 1, because it has been asked by a number of people, so we need to be seen to be doing our job democratically as well as anything else. 7 and 8.
On page 7, you had a question about the planters. That's addressed in my finance report this time. So,
okay, we'll take it there.
Yep.
8 and 9. 10 and 11. 12 and 13. 14 and 15. 16 is the end of the formal minutes. Somebody want to move there a true record?
I'll
move the minutes, Chair. I'll second them.
Who should? I've lost the plot there as to who proposed and seconded, but who proposed?
me,
And
I think.
and
Yeah.
Second by Councillor Vogt.
Yeah.
Okay, item 4, the update, progress log from the previous meeting. Is there anything in particular our RFO chief officer wants to go through and note that we're making progress on, or indeed the clerk, or indeed any of us? This is rather a fulsome list. Maybe it's trimmed down a little from last time. I know it's printed on a bad stage. We've still got 13 items. Is there anything there that people want to note as nudge forward? Anything to report on 3, in particular, Julian? Because we've had that for a while, the National Association of Local Councils Standing Orders. Have we lost Julian?
Chair, sorry, no, just a bit noisy. There's a rain shower passing overhead. I can think we have the document, but it needs Winnickifying, if that's the right word for it, because there's lots of blanks and lots of options. So basically, I need to scan that into a format where we can actually amend it. I think at this stage, my proposal would be to bring that to the next annual meeting, because I think that's the place where you would normally have a look at your constitution. But it may be that members want to have an earlier look than that, and just to sort of flesh out some of the.
I think that's a very good idea, and if you can, we'll just amend it on that basis, because we can adopt it at sort of leisure.
Item 7 there.
Sorry?
Item 7 on that list
Yes.
seems to have an end date of 30th of October. That seems to have passed.
No, 30th of October was the submission of the accounts paperwork.
Okay.
But I was asked to look into that, the discrepancy, and put a retrospective in for next year's accounts.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, with the COVID stuff at the minute, I've not actually had a chance to go through all that thoroughly, but now that I've got all the tier 3 stuff set in, I should hopefully be able to get back to that now.
Yeah, I think it's important we track that down, because I've no doubt it'll be in some way paper related. But 4,000, particularly when we're doing the budget today, or we're starting the budget setting procedures today, having a discrepancy of £4,644 is not a great position to be in. So we need to make sure that we trace that down and bring it back. So I would support Councillor Friend in just making a note to nudge that one forward, please, for next meeting. But
Yeah, the plan was to get it done.
I do appreciate that every time you probably get a spare bit of time at the moment, somebody decides that you're going to either change tiers, change rules, change posts, change support systems, then change them 3 days later.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, no, I think it's in the worst case scenario one, so it can only ease the pressure on me from here.
Hey, that's a problem, you see, with this government. Just when you think it can't get any worse, I can assure you it can. Right, to be slightly political for a moment, it can get a lot worse. 8 and 9, 8 and 9 I notice are done. The rest are all fairly sort of things you just get on with, aren't they?
A lot easier to follow now. It's in colour as well, Chair.
In what?
In colour.
In colour. I thought you said in colour. I thought it was some software program that I wasn't familiar with, as it normally is when people mention something like that.
Paper minutes, easier to follow than other.
I did see your note, Julian, that we'd had it's 2 questions from one parishioner. Hello?
Sorry, Chair, you're just breaking up at mine. I don't know whether it's me or whether it's the
No,
it
it's
just gave me a warning that it was unstable. We have had a question from a parishioner, which is two questions in one. Do you want to read it out, Julian? Because my intention is to take it on the agenda to give a prompt response, really.
I will do, Chair.
Chair, can I just make a suggestion that everybody who's not talking mute and turn their cameras off? It makes streaming a lot faster. Thank you.
Don't be having me messing with it. Hello?
We're still there.
Hello?
We heard you, Sue, yeah.
Ah, right, okay.
We heard you and we can
Who's
see
turning
you.
off? Can you see me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, we can. Sorry, Chair.
We've had a question from a parishioner which is in two parts, and my intention, although it was slightly outside the limit, rather than delay it a month, is have Julian read it and then authorise the clerk to respond. The gentleman may be watching now, but I think it's worthy of a written response, and it's not going to be that hard a response to give. But in terms of, you know, parishioner service to electors, I'd like Julian to just read it out to people, because it may not have gone on circulation, and then we can discuss how to handle it. Is that okay, Julian?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Chair. Effectively, it's a follow-up from questions lodged by a resident at the last meeting. So it's in two parts. The first bit relates to the sale of land issue. So it's the gentleman said, I asked last month if the council could advise what steps they are putting in place to avoid another occurrence like the car park fiasco from happening again. I understand that a certain amount of discussions, including legal matters, have to be held in private. However, as soon as any party registers an interest in parish land, the village should be consulted. This should certainly be done long before any agreement to sell or even give away the land is made. I notice in the minutes that the council felt we would have benefited from the extra car parking space, which could have been used outside school hours. The car park was set to replace the existing car park, which was to be eventually turned into a nursery. One car park was to be replaced by another, therefore there is no extra benefit to the village. I appreciate that the council wants to help the school, something I completely agree with. However, there was huge resistance to the now withdrawn proposal. I would ask the council to have a public consultation before any land is sold off, and certainly before it is simply given away. So that's the first question, Chair. Second question relates to the litter picker. With regards to the litter picker employed by the council, I have to agree with Councillor Idden's comment that £17,000 for 2.5 days' work is high. With what I can gather from your response last month, he has no set route. If the council is paying £17,000, surely he should be given areas he has to cover every week. When the management committee are discussing closing the leisure centre and looking to save money, why are we not looking at cheaper options? So those are the two questions, Chair.
I'm sorry, Julian. Could you read the last sentence of that second question again? I heard the bit about something cheaper, but I missed what you said before. Could you just repeat? Sorry.
The last sentence is, when the management committee are discussing closing the leisure centre and looking to save money, why are we not looking at cheaper options?
Right. Okay. Thank you, Julian.
Yep. On the financial side of the litter picker, obviously from the accounts that we need to look at before it goes to the full meeting next month, you'll see I split them down this time to what the actual litter picker, his wages cost us, and what the vehicle hire from Warrington Borough Council costs. So it's about 12.5 for the litter picker, an additional 4,100 for the vehicle hire. Budget was put in at 17 just in case the hourly rate went up or the vehicle hire went up.
So my suggestion is that we respond to the gentleman in writing, but obviously you can see the matter being discussed here. In relation to that last point, first of all, I think the point that how the costs are split down is important. I think it's also important, although it's in part two, I'd be keen to see this come into part one at some point, is that we do have a fixed rota and we do have data of what days he picks and where he picks. And whilst I can't cast forward to predict what the part two agenda may decide, it really is then down to members, when they know what dates this person is going, to check that the routes are being done, or indeed to add other areas onto them if they're considered not to be a priority. The other alternative is, of course, we could decide the system is not best value and go back to where we were before. But the matter is under active consideration, and I trust that we can get Julian to draft something along those lines, further to what we discussed in part two as well. In relation to there's no plans to close the leisure centre other than it being closed under tier 3, trying to deliver as much community value, the former words that Councillor Vogt came up with last time in terms of best value, to make sure that it's, that the community performance or the community benefit is maximised, is the brief that the council has handed the management committee. And in relation to the one, I don't know if anybody's got anything to add about the school, but from my perspective, I think, you know, it's something that had to go through planning and the consultation of the land use issue as to whether the land is suitable for planning. The public have always got that broader consultation, because it's then that things like lighting, access, fencing, if it was going to be fenced, came up with. I think the council, if members may wish to correct me in the response that goes to the gentleman, were very much minded, A, in supporting the school, and B, in that if the land remained, the car park remained for public use during non-school hours, it would augment the amount of parking that we get, which sometimes is under pressure, and therefore formed a balanced view on it, given that the matter would have to go to planning. I don't know if members feel like we've got lessons to learn from it, but I'm not sure we do.
Can I ask, Chair, what, I agree with what you've just said. What exactly is the parishioner asking us to conduct a consultation on? Because he asked in his question, I assume it's a he, sorry, he asked in his question about the parish council conducting a consultation. What does he want us to consult on?
He wants us to have a public consultation if there's any change in land use in future. And my observation on that would be, it's been in several meetings where it's been discussed, and the opportunity, this blew up when the school put in the planning application.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, just as a general
I'm not so sure that.
Yeah, just as a general point, I mean, it's also obviously, if there is land changing use, obviously it's up to individual ward members to gauge the views of their residents before they cast a vote in the parish council meeting. And of course, the resident, I don't know which part of the parish he lives in, I'm assuming it's Winwick ward, you know, obviously has the right to go to his ward members to express his view and lobby them to vote a particular way if he feels that strongly about it.
I think the sensitive nature of it is because, let's face it, I don't know how many people will watch this stream. It may be half a dozen, it may be less than that. But if there is no interest in attending the meeting and we conduct ourselves as we do, there's no red flag to anybody other than we have the same thing with the phone box. You can consult to a certain degree, and if somebody says, well, I haven't seen that, or I don't go to parish council meetings, I don't do this and I don't do that, there's an element whereby people feel that we should reach out. And I'm very sensitive, I'm chairing a meeting, if people want to just agree and write back to him and say, yeah, we agree with that, or are we minded to say, well, look, this thing came up at several meetings, it wasn't necessarily out there, and it wasn't being hidden. There's no intent to hide anything. There's no money being exchanged in hand. It's just elected members trying to do the best for the community. On one hand, I can see the sensitivity of the change in use, but there is at times a parking need, and we're providing extra parking at the front for the times at weekends and evenings when the centre's in use and the school isn't. Seemed a sensible decision to me, and I probably voted in favour of it. And also the fact that the school would pick up the maintenance for the road at the front. Another benefit.
It was,
Oh,
can I just say, it was quite widely publicised on the notice boards as well.
Yeah,
so people could have picked it up and come to the meeting if they were bothered about it.
Yeah, I think the one we missed though is with social media, people are expecting it to be on Facebook. They were expecting it to be on the Winwick and Hermitage Green page. So if we've got something like that in future, it might just be there to keep in mind to make sure that something gets posted on there as well as on the website, because then the people that are already linked to it will automatically get that update. Might be something.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
One of the things the school got wrong with this, though, and bearing in mind I don't want to be seen to be critical of the school because there's no representatives here, is they didn't go through that exercise. They just put the application in and thought, well, that'll do with the school. If they'd gone, they needed to sell. They didn't realise they needed to sell this as being a benefit to the community, and that's where I think a lot of existing organisations. You're probably right, Claire, and being open and people who see this, you know, you've got to understand how, as an old traditional, turn up every meeting, minute it, have a subcommittee and that. Digital, you know, the digitisation and social media just changes that completely. You know, if somebody posts something and gets 25 likes, which gets another 25 likes, and before you know it, you've got 500 people moaning about something.
Plus the people that may potentially be working and unable to attend a meeting will still then be able to see it on the social media. It's just a thought.
Who would we task with posting things on community Facebook pages? Because the parish council, whilst I am sympathetic to the idea that it obviously does help to spread the word about things, the parish council is very clear about what our channels of communication are, and Facebook is not listed amongst them. So if someone is expecting something to be posted on a particular Facebook group, then they might expect that and they might want that to happen, but actually the parish council doesn't say that we are communicating with residents via Facebook.
No, but the Winwick and Hermitage Green page, I do know Councillor Mitchell is one of the administrators on it.
Oh, right.
So I can always speak to her and find out if she wants to add me, so that if anything needs to be posted.
But in respect to the chair who's not there and trying to hope this gentleman, I hope he is listening, sees what we're trying to do. If that's a confidential matter, because we're dealing with it in the sense that it's the sensitivity from the diocese's point of view, the diocese are not going to thank us for posting something on Winwick Facebook to say, hey, just to let you know, ... There's a point at which it's been in part 1 and there's a point at which it was in part 2. And no one's trying to hide anything from that process. It's just a question of how you then, because the planning process, which is the key to this, which has now been withdrawn because of, you know, the opposition and the flack it's taken, that's where the consultation is always going to happen in my mind. And the school, as that development, needs to have, with respect to the school, needs to have handled that a lot better. They're the ones that need to send something out in all the children's bags to say, just to let you know, we're looking at this. If that had have happened and people saying, well, what are you doing selling the land off, it would have been a completely different route in. So I think there are some elements to learn in terms of how land like that is done. But I don't think we, you know, in any response, I don't think we didn't follow our processes. That's what I'm keen
I agree.
And to see. And again, I don't think something, Julian wants to say something.
Yeah, just very quickly. Yeah, I mean, there is actually a statutory consultation process around the disposal of public open space, which the council did follow. But obviously that was invented in about 1972, a long time before the internet. But it does require us to publish a notice in local press. It's got to be in there for at least 2 consecutive weeks. And we do, as a parish council, post it on our public notice boards and on the council's website. So there is a process there. But as you quite rightly pointed out, there's a time issue in terms of when does the information need to be released to the public and when is it still private and confidential and sensitive commercially. And it's just finding that balance. You know, perhaps we didn't quite get it right this time, but you know, the process for consultation is there.
I think if the clerk puts something in writing to this gentleman along those lines, and again, being sympathetic to the fact that we may not have got the balance right, are members happy for him to take away and respond to that? And I'll... Can I just
ask a question?
You certainly can.
Is it the same gentleman who's commented about the litter picking?
Yes.
Yes. Now, you said at the beginning of this, it's quite clear. It's not quite clear. Julian's done a very, very good job on the paper he's produced, but it does need a lot of clarification. I'm the main person who brings up the litter picking, and that only, for me, enforces my view. We will discuss it in part 2, I presume.
Yeah. And to be fair, Anne, I'd be keen to make sure what comes out of that ends up in part 1. I'd have been happy with that litter picking discussion to be within part 1. I mean, it's been put in part 2. But
I'm not bothered about it.
But we do need to be, you know, we need to be clear and transparent as to the value we're getting. All I'll say when we get to that point, and I'll reiterate again, when I first came on as just a councillor and not a chair or vice chair, this time of year through to February, we had nothing but complaints about litter in hedgerows, litter along the roads, litter, which is why in listening to it, those of us who are Labour councillors made a pitch for saying, well, we'll introduce this service.
Yeah.
I've not had any complaints about that from now on.
Well, then you don't read Facebook, Mike.
Well, I don't, but the stuff used to come to it. But the point of it then is that when the one comment I would have with it is, I don't think it delivers great value where it's not safe to pick. The litter doesn't know, a crisp packet doesn't know that, I can go there and it can stay there for a while. So I do think there's a need to look at how we offer the service. I'm just seeing a message popping up on the screen from Chris. I don't know whether they get seen, but on the live stream, Chris, you may know better than I do.
I didn't get.
But what I'm saying is, let's have that. Once we've discussed it in part 2, let's get it out in part 1. I'm very open to have a discussion about it, but I know it's a lot better now than it was.
In some aspects, not in all aspects.
Well, that's where we'd have a difference.
And it's a lot of money. It's about the money.
It is. It is.
It isn't about the litter.
Yeah.
Litter picking in general is very good. It's about the amount of money.
And we do have budget on our agenda.
And we do have budget on our agenda.
So I'm going to move on from question time for electors to written motions received.
Chairman, none received.
Police and community issues.
Again, Chairman, nothing received from the police on this occasion.
Okay. Sometimes they dip out for a while. Correspondence.
There's a whole raft of correspondence in the pack, Chairman. Nothing particular stands out. There were a couple of late items, some additional correspondence from Warrington Voluntary Association. There's a couple of late emails in from the Cheshire Association of Local Councils, just to sort of update bulletins. There's a late item in connection with South Warrington Parish's local plan issue, which is elsewhere on the agenda anyway.
Okay.
And there was one more substantial letter from a resident about fly tipping on Hermitage Green Lane, just asking that the parish be more proactive in that and suggesting things like cameras and signage and that sort of thing. I am aware that that is a sort of ongoing dialogue between the parish and Warrington Borough Council, but we haven't chased that up for a while, so I'm happy to do that to try and get the latest position on that.
Yeah, and I was copying into something on that one today, and I'll respond to Kathy, because I think I would like us to be seen to be more proactive in terms of use of cameras. But I've noticed that signs that use of cameras is starting is out in Kenyon, in an area I'm not familiar, that is a problem with fly tipping, and yet that hotspot is nothing. So I do think we need to revisit this with the borough, to be quite honest.
Yeah, the Borough Council certainly need to play its part about Hermitage Green Lane, because what has been fly tipped on there is on their property at the moment, or it was yesterday.
Yeah, and it's definitely a regular occurrence. I mean, it's not as though there's hardly a month crops up without something being deposited. Councillor Lowe.
Chair, I would reasonably expect, I agree with what's been said so far, I would reasonably expect if there's something on Warrington Borough Council land that surely Kathy could act quite quickly to get something done about that.
Mm-hmm.
I would loop her into any correspondence about that.
I would suggest that might be the nature of my response back.
Yeah.
Can I just ask Julian a question? Julian, I gave you a letter last week that somebody had given to me, or the other week, about overgrown bushes. Have you responded to that at all?
I haven't yet, I'm sorry. No, it is on my list of things to do urgently, but I just haven't had a chance to do it.
It's only that he will come back after this meeting to me and ask me. Can I tell him that you are happy to respond to that?
I'll make a point of doing that really quickly, Anne. Yeah, sorry.
Thanks. No, thanks very much. That's fine.
Okay, finishing correspondence then. Planning matters and land at Peel Hall. Does anybody want to add anything other than if I give people an update from Pete Black? I did speak to him earlier today.
Yeah, let's have the update from Pete.
Well, I think Pete gave us 4 formal updates, which will be in the correspondence somewhere about the matter now being adjourned, pending. People have to correct me. Graham may know all this. It was the evidence on traffic, isn't it? It's the traffic case that still hasn't been properly put together.
The traffic models wouldn't work, I think.
Which has got to be quite embarrassing in terms of the amount of time. He felt that the objectors put up a very good and strong case, and if I was being slightly chippy, as it were, as I sometimes can be,
Never.
he felt the borough had probably let things. The borough didn't perhaps put in as much as they should on some of the areas. He picked up the fact that in some ways that it was the protesters' arguments that were carrying the day, and that might be something for our elected members of a borough councillors to take away. Because obviously, even if we win this, the site will come back again, and we're all back in the same never-ending loop unless something is done with the local plan, which is next on the agenda. But the general consensus was that the funds were well spent and well utilised in terms of objecting to the appeal, and that in essence, although it was quite limited in terms of what issues were allowed, there was a lot more done by the objectors on those issues which had been supposedly, the borough weren't back in to reopen them and point out that the site isn't suitable. Chris, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that, I mean, I'm in communication with the Safe Peel Hall campaign group quite regularly, and I do hear from their members. I think that what Peter said there is a fairly accurate assessment of how they feel as well. I think there is, I mean, we touched on this at the last meeting, and I know that some people take this very personally when it is said, but it is not intended as a personal comment. It is an observation from our parishioners that I think they are feeding back to us, and we have to listen to as elected representatives. They do feel, rightly or wrongly, for good or for ill, they do feel that at least some of Warrington Borough Council's input into the inquiry was not, as they would deem it, satisfactory, and they feel that the council did relent and give way on a number of points. And I think that Pete is right when he said the arguments that seemed to be resonating and having the most impact were arguments and points being made by the Rule 6 group. I think in terms of elected member input and elected representative input, if I use that catch-all term, there was a general consensus that they were satisfied with what elected members were putting in and saying during the inquiry, with, I think, if I'm being completely fair and neutral, 1 or 2 exceptions to that. So everyone can take that however they want to take it and respond to it, obviously, however they want to. But I would say that gels, what Peter said there, gels with the feedback that residents have given as well.
Yeah, and as I say, I just think it'll come up when it opens again. I think the lessons to learn may then be just nicely bumped into item 10. So I don't see there's anything else to do until it comes back for next time. I don't know whether we're going to get any further requests for budget to be drawn on, because obviously the information is put in. Graham, you may know what's the planned timeline for it coming back in terms of, I know it's in the new year, but how many days do they think they'll be sitting when it comes back?
Don't have any information on that before. They didn't give anything.
Right, so effectively we'll just have to suck it and see when the work comes back. So with that update, is everybody happy to move to item 10, which is the actual status of the local plan? Everybody happy to move on to that?
Yeah.
So my understanding with the local plan is that we'd have all had notifications that the local plan process has now been paused. The Borough Council are saying they're taking a delay. I spoke to Pete at some length 2 or 3 occasions over this, and his view is that you need to be very careful with such delays, because when you then fail to have a plan that delivers housing land, anybody can then put in for their bit of green belt to be brought forward on a case-by-case basis, because you've got a planning basis that the housing figure has to be delivered, and Warrington will be planning to deliver something against 400 houses against the limit of 700. So by not having a plan, the strategic sites will not be there, and because the strategic sites aren't there, planning consultants will sometimes call it open season on other land. So if you've got a greenfield site that wasn't in the local plan, now's the time that you bring it forward and have it assessed on a case-by-case basis, because the council doesn't have a plan. The counter to that view is perhaps, and we should do, is perhaps find out the reasons why it's been paused. Is it because of the coronavirus? Is it because this town funding that they've run 2 million, I think it is, for today? Is it because that's going to change the balance of land in the centre? Because this very then links in with what the southern parishes have been trying. We've had some informal links with, and I hope they do at some point see this, is that those of us who care about the town and the town centre in particular think there is a better development plan for the town centre with more housing units in it, so that you really get, you know, the investment that's gone into the. You all right, Sue?
That just died quietly.
It's all right. You've not lost your sense of taste, have you? You might need a glass of red wine just to check your taste is still working, or something like that. Is that if it's an opportunity to do that, or presents an opportunity to do that, then that is something that we should be seen to be welcoming and perhaps trying to participate in. But the danger is, if there is some master plan that's emerging to look at an even more better use for the town centre, we could lose some small, it would tend to be smaller sites in the fringes of our towns and cities, you know, around the outsides of Winwick. People can just put in, and they stand a good chance. If it's a small site, 60, 70 houses here and there, they stand a very good chance, because an inspectorate appeal will rule that if the council's not meeting its housing figures and the site, apart from Greenbelt, meets all of the criteria for sustainability, we will see sites come through and get approved. And Winwick, with relatively high land values and good transport links, would be an area that could be susceptible to that. So Pete's view was that, I differ slightly, I have to say. Pete's view that suspending it for a period wasn't a great idea, but if it helps us get a better town centre plan, then overall it could be a positive thing. I don't know if Graham's got any inside track, or Diana's got any inside track from what members have been told.
As far as I knew, Chair, it was delayed partly because of the COVID, partly because of the sheer number of responses they received from when it went out to consultation, and partly Peel Hall. As you say, if Peel Hall gets approved to be built on, that can alter the 1,200 houses, can really alter the local plan going forward. That was my understanding anyway.
And if it gets rejected,
yeah, it changes.
If it's struck from the plan, it changes it the other way.
It does, Chair, yes.
Yeah. But there was
Do members have any feelings what we should be doing as a council corporately with the borough? Chris, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, Chair, just a slight point if I could. Well, just as an aside, I'm slightly amused that the council couldn't cope with the volume of responses it received. I'm not entirely sure what they expected, given the local plan that was published and put out there, you know, but never mind. I think in terms of going forward, I take on board Pete's comments, and I'm kind of sympathetic to what he says, but I think we are where we are, and there is a pause, there is a delay with it. And I think we should use the time as a parish council and as elected representatives in the Winwick parish to set out clearly to the borough council what we want from a revised draft local plan. And I think somehow we need to take, probably not in a full parish council meeting, whether we have a separate subcommittee or something like that, I don't know how we do it. I'm open to suggestions, but we need to take input from the 3 wards of Winwick Parish and compile a document which we submit to the Borough Council, which is on behalf of Winwick Parish Council, setting out clearly what we're lobbying for, what we're expecting, what we hope for. I think other parish councils have done that, and I think we need to get ahead of the game by doing it this time around.
Well, can I make a suggestion then that we take that away and perhaps though a group of representatives seek a meeting with the leader, deputy leader, of course, is our chair, and the senior planners to discuss what the direction of travel is, and to look at what our views are. And then what we can do, if we get a date for a meeting, I'm sure we'll get a meeting, we can pre-meet the night before or the day before and discuss what that is, and to get a group of a minimum of 3 of us, as you say, because each ward needs to be represented, as a delegation to go. And I mean, our chair, Kathleen, she used to sit out, to be fair, because she's chair and deputy leader, but I'll happily take one of those seats, as it were, to sort of go and see the leader and the senior planners as to lobby on the behalf of the people of Winwick. Chris, can I take it you'd be keen to join as well?
I'm indifferent, Chair. I'm happy to go if people want me there, but equally I'm happy to pass that to either Tim or Sue if they want to go from our ward.
I should have welcomed Tim. He's not on my screen. I've just realised.
I've just been keeping quiet, listening.
Tim, what a terrible faux pas. I saw you earlier on and then you disappeared. A very, very belated and a humble apology, Tim. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for becoming a member.
Not a problem, not a problem. Glad to be here. Just hoping I can be of some use. Relating to the issue Chris has just raised about liaising with a team from the council directly about the Peel Hall plan, I have to admit, I feel I'm too new at the moment to know the nuances of the situation. So while I feel that somebody from Peel Hall should be there, and I'm happy to take on the role, I don't know if Stu would be better suited at that than I am. Sorry to kind of throw you straight in there.
Yeah, I think it probably needs to involve
and now I've got
Hillary and John rather than other parish councils. But I don't suspect that the parish councils in the south have gone to the council with it. They've just sat down themselves and commented on the core plan, haven't they? From what I've been reading, with the obviously with the elected members who are not Labour in the south.
Oh, they're lobbying. I mean, they're lobbying.
Yeah.
What I'm suggesting is that because we're all...
I don't actually know that we haven't already been doing this on an ongoing basis with the leader and the council officers. It's...
I'm sure many of us have been doing it informally, but it's a question of what we do through a formal process of being the representatives of Winwick.
Yeah, I think, Chair, if I may, what I was suggesting was... obviously, individual members are entitled to make whatever submissions to the council that they want, be they parish or borough councillors. That's absolutely their right. What I'm suggesting is, collectively on behalf of our parishioners, that Winwick Parish Council as a body has, at the end of the day, some sort of document which we could show to any resident who asked for it if they wanted to see it. Yeah. This is what our position is as regards to the draft local plan. This is what we're asking for. This is what we're arguing, and here's the case that we're stating in favour.
It's not exactly rocket science. We want, I'll come to you in a minute, Tim. We want more development in the town centre and Peel or deleted as a site. That I think is the thing that we want, and some of us have had cited council's opinion on how to do it. And we want that followed, basically.
Personally, I would say that's correct, yeah.
So
yeah, I think
we make that happen. Tim?
I was just going to say, I agree with Chris. I think it is something where, as a parish council, we should have a body that is going to discuss the local plan. It's a case of for Poplars and Hume, then John and Hillary, I certainly would hope would arrange to do something separately, and I'd happily be involved in those as a candidate for that area. But I believe as a parish council, we have a responsibility to the residents in the parish to make our case and put that forward, separate from the work that borough councillors do, and separate from the council body itself. So I agree with Chris. It should be something where there's a parish council effort to do that.
I agree.
We need some volunteers. We're talking almost about setting up a working group, aren't we? So we need a smaller number of people to either be these representatives that go or initially form what that opinion. But if we do that, it's not going to be a very short meeting, very long meeting, because it's very clear what the bulk of our parishioners and those in other wards around Peel Hall would like to see. Put more housing in the centre. You know, you built this wonderful square which has got a cinema that's closed and one restaurant open. You need more people in that area as a critical mass to make your town centre vision work. That's fundamentally it. It's a beautiful design, but you need more people, more and more people, because if it was working at the moment, all those, you know, we know with COVID's come along, but all of those restaurants, places would have been taken up. And the void space in the town centre is getting worse by the month. And, you know, pubs, if you look at the bar culture that we've got in Warrington, how many of them are going to survive being closed? So I think it's a good idea, personally, to take a pause. But if you can't work out that we've probably had about 10 years worth of drift over this 6 months as to what the future would have looked like anyway, you know, in offices, people working from home, that sort of change. You've got to really look at what your town centre is like, and once you've worked that out, you probably don't need as much greenbelt development. We've just got to get into people's headspace, and to be honest, those as are left of centre and Labour Party members have probably got more chance of doing that than the southern parishes who belong to different parties. To be frank, we've got more chance of having a chat than just lobbying and, you know, putting questions down in open council. We probably should, in the pause, be doing more of it. So I'll happily take a lead on that for, you know, the sort of Portland Green Ward, as it were.
Well,
what about?
I'm happy to participate,
I'm
Mike.
sorry, I'm a bit confused, Mike. This is our response to the core plan.
Yes.
That we're talking about.
Yeah.
Suggesting other alternatives,
because once Peel, and the other thing is once Peel,
reasoning why, because the focus of what we're saying is whatever happens anywhere else in the town, north, south, east or west, Peel Hall is not suitable.
Right.
And I don't want to lose focus on that by saying, well, you can build here, there and everywhere else. When for me, the focus is the reasons why Peel Hall is not suitable are, and we keep on hammering that message across.
But the reality is the only way you get the site deleted in the long term is to find the housing allocation across all the sites.
Alternative.
But I thought that's what we were trying to do within the town centre already.
We are, but within the local plan.
That's what they're doing rather than suggest it. So it's a wonderful idea that they've not thought of. It's sort of confirming that that's the way they're thinking. It's, you know, like when you want somebody to do what you want to do, you make them think it's their idea. Well, you know, so this is what we're doing in the town centre. It's, you know, and the reason why we're doing it.
When I pushed against this door with, to be fair, with Russ and Kathy, you say, well, we're already doing that. And Terry, before, we're already doing it. You go, yeah, but it's not really, there's more to be done. Well, this can't possibly get any more in. And then they go away and a bit more comes in.
So they were
and
listening.
Every time.
Yeah,
so they are listening. They are listening. But given this is a public meeting which could be streamed, there's an element of how, it's how you sort of get people to the right position. I have a feeling that one of the reasons for the delay is that it has dawned on people. You know, you open this big new shiny square, and yes, you've got your cinema, you've got one restaurant, and your market moves across, and then the company that we're going to take it goes. It must have dawned on them that from an economic point of view, business people like me will form a view as where you can make a buck, and if the footfall isn't big enough, you don't go there. And your footfall, the critical mass of the town centre isn't there at the moment. Once you get the footfall and the critical mass right, by going down development models which are readily available elsewhere in Europe and increasingly in the UK as well, you suddenly don't need your out of town sites. Now, the big battle will come as to which out of town sites do you delete. Those people in the south of the parish will want some of the greenbelt in Appleton and Stockton-Heath put back into greenbelt. We want Peel Hall. That's where this will go. It's almost inevitable that the town centre will be looked at again. But when they look at it and more housing units go in and around, and within a sort of 2 to 3 mile radius, and we're using electric buses to get people in, the big question is, which site or sites are the borough council planners going to delete from the plan? Let's be adult about it. That's the decision that somebody's going to have to make. And we need to make sure we're lobbying for Peel Hall to come out, because we won't get any support for that from the southern parishes. So I think the idea of having one member from each ward is strong. You know, I think Cathy may have a conflict of interest. Anne, are you interested in being the Winwick rep?
I don't feel I know in. I mean, obviously, there's only me then, because the other representative doesn't come. But I
That's
mean,
Councillor Standing.
Yeah, well,
Congratulations, Anne, you've been elected.
You be quiet. I don't have strong views about it, you see. I can see the balance. I mean, I agree with what you've said about towns. I agree with town centre development.
Well,
I can be it, but I don't feel I'm much. Might be vociferous about a lot of things, but I don't feel I can have a proper view about this, to be honest, or a different view, if you like. But yeah, I'll do it if that's what.
Okay.
Don't feel it's my forte, though.
So that just leaves the Peel Hall ward proper, then, doesn't it? I'm happy.
I'm happy to come on from Peel Hall ward. If Tim and Sue are happy, I'm happy to do it.
So, Julian, will you minute that's our group, and I'll do something to circulate and a letter or get an invite to people.
I'm good at volunteering other people. I think Graham should be on that one with you.
I'm happy to have Graham as well.
Mm-hmm. Has he gone?
No, I sit with me mic muted. You volunteering me again?
Cheers. Well, it's either me or you, and I think Mike has proved that I've got too much to say.
Mike said he was from our ward.
I think we can. I'll happily take 4. We can happily take 4. I'm not going to.
I think so. Yeah, I think Graham would be very good with you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Obviously wants you out of the house for another evening a week.
It'll be a Zoom meeting. Just lock him in the study.
I am on the planning committee. I know I've already spoken against Peel Hall, so anything to do with Peel Hall, I'm happy to speak on. But planning in other areas, I can't really speak on, can I?
That's what I was going to say. Would it not be a conflict in some circumstances?
It may turn out to be, yes. That was my one concern.
You've got to be careful, haven't you? Because if you're talking in broad terms about footfall for the town centre and making it a vigorous night scene and things like that, I don't think you've got a conflict. But if you start talking about a particular development,
I think at the end of the day, Graham, if you're there on the committee to talk about your ward and the things that affect your ward, well, you're going to speak. You're going to step down from planning to talk about them anyway. So
I'm happy there. That was
see that it'll matter.
Concern.
Yeah.
But to be frank, since I was a borough councillor, this modern obsession with with declaring interest is used by officers to stop councillors taking an interest in the town. It closes debate down. every borough councillor in Warrington should have an interest in what the town centre looks like, irrespective of whose ward it is, because it's absolutely crucial to what the outlying areas look like. And to, you might be a conflict of interest councillor. It's just done, to be frank, to close members down.
I'm going to say, put my neck on the block and say that it might be the other way around in some cases as well.
In what way?
You might get some elected members that uses it as an excuse not to stick the neck above the parapet.
Oh, surely not, Sue.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I can guarantee Councillor Eden wouldn't be in that one, in that group. Anyway, so we've got a way forward. If you could minute that, I'll do some lobbying to get some access, as it were.
Be neutral on the planning committee. And not
well, we all are. It's a quasi-judicial role. I'm going to make some progress on the agenda. Number 11, Royal British Legion Poppy Appeal. I mean, intrigued as to what the plans for Remembrance Sunday are this year. Julian, have we had some correspondence?
Chair, no, we've not had any correspondence specifically about Remembrance Sunday, other than I had an exchange of emails with the council's civic officer, but at that time there were no firm plans. I suspect if it follows national trends, if there is to be an event, it will be a very low-key event. But regardless of that, we have gone ahead and ordered a wreath for the parish, as we do on an annual basis. So that can either be laid at Warrington's ceremony, if there is one, or locally, perhaps on Swan Green, if there isn't one. But the decision before you tonight is as to what amount to donate to the Royal British Legion. The wreaths cost about £17, but normally as a parish council, you make a donation. You top the whole amount up to about £60. So it's just to seek approval for that decision. Sorry, Chris, you were indicating.
Yeah, sorry, just to say, Julian, I'm assuming this will be the case here, but I know in other parishes, including my own church here, that there is no church service on Remembrance Sunday, and what they are saying is that individuals or organisations who want to lay wreaths are to do so on a kind of individual basis in their own time on the day.
Yeah, can I just say, as chair of the Armed Forces Committee on the Borough Council, there will be no public ceremony of any kind for Remembrance Day this year.
Well, I'll just liaise with Kathy as to who then lays our wreath, so to speak. We've shared it in the past as chair and deputy chair, intended to flip it around, but I'll make sure that it ends up there one way or another.
Where are we going?
But we need to decide. It normally is at the church, isn't it? We lay ours at the church.
The church isn't open, is it?
No, but it'll end up at the. That's the point, because it's done inside.
Has anybody else got a church that isn't open that are going to lay, to give an idea? I don't think the church is open at all, is it? Because I believe the rector's not there anymore.
No, she's moving to the parish church.
She's moving to the parish church, that's right.
But
in fact, I think she's... Sorry, Diane.
I don't know when the services take place, but she's definitely moving to the parish church.
I don't know whether the service is linked to Burton. I mean, I'm not a churchgoer, but I don't know whether the service is linked to Burtonwood, one of the Burtonwood churches. I'm not sure about that. Sue would know, but Kathy would know, I rather think.
I'll have a chat with. Are people happy to me to find out where the appropriate place is?
Yeah.
Can we just delegate that to the chair and vice chair?
Yeah. I'll do that. I'll definitely take that on board.
But
we raised. Claire, sorry, I didn't see you. I can only see part of the people.
No, it's fine. With regards to the donation of £60 was pre-approved in the budget at the when we set out at the start of the year. So that donation has actually already been made.
Okay, so we just need to sort out where we're laying the wreath and collection thereof. Okay.
Yeah.
Now to the main meat of the evening, item 12, Finance Officer's Report.
Right, Joe. Okay, so firstly, Councillor Collins, did you receive my emails?
Sorry, just checking. Sorry, it's one of these things. I've got two computers on the go, so just bear with me a moment. I think I did receive it. I will double check.
No, it's all right. It's just making sure, because I copied and pasted it from Julian's, and I thought something's going to go wrong. So I just wanted to make sure you had it.
I'm confident I have. I'm confident I've seen it, and I'm sure it'll all come flooding back to me
Okay.
the moment we start discussing it. But I'm just going to pull up the documents on my computer here, just so I've got something to refer to. Yeah.
No problems. Okay. Quick overview. September, we had 8.5k of income through the centre, which included £715 of furlough money. There's approximately another £1,000 worth of furlough money that I need to put a claim in for the end of September and October's pay. That's getting done tomorrow morning. But we had a 3k loss for September, and the year to date is showing a 7.4k loss. Now, the original budget, which obviously had us working at maximum capacity, we had budgeted for about a 14k loss on the year. So at halfway through, we're about where we were kind of predicting we'd be on losses, but with the obviously lower income due to the overhead savings that have been put in place. Rightio. And then we had 5.8k of precept expenditure, although that's slightly higher now because I have received a September dated bill from Peter Black with regards to the Peel Hall. The main thing from the finance report that there needs to be a decision on is the flower replacements quote. Obviously, this is the big planters and the ones on the railings. We've had quotes from Dave Hannon, who did a brilliant job of sprucing up the patio.
He did.
Yeah, he's made that actually look like a nice place to sit now, so that's great. He's coming in at £880 to do them all, and Gardenia's quote, the last one I received from the before any furlough and everything, was 1,362 for the year. So obviously, I mean, Dave's a local guy and he's a lot cheaper. I would personally recommend going with him, but it's for the council to make a decision.
Are we all comfortable with that, given it is the best price and the gentleman's done a good job on the patio?
Can I just
Yeah.
say he's made a terrific difference to the patio. It now looks like a patio should. It's a very big difference.
That's the thing. He charged us £90 to do the flowers and to spray for weeds, but that includes him coming back for repeat spraying of the weeds as well. So it's very good at what he's doing.
Very reliable.
Yeah,
very reliable.
Yeah, and he's got a vested interest as well in making the area look nice.
Well, he's definitely done a very, very good job. It looks sharp now instead of a mess.
Yeah.
It's needed that for some time.
It has.
Credit to you, Claire, and credit to him. And I think
I was going to say the credit goes to Dave because.
It's getting them organised is one of the problems that we've got. So I take it that that's approved. Any other questions on? Yeah, I've seen everybody nodding and nobody's saying no, so I'll take it that that's a yes. Any other matters in the finance report? We will obviously have a more detailed matter on the part 2.
Yeah, there's more detailed stuff that needs to be discussed, needs to be part 2 items. So
But for those who are interested, who may be watching online, what tends to happen is things get discussed in part 2, they go to a management committee, and then they come back on part 1. So you can always see what's being discussed because it comes back round as item 13, which is the next thing on the agenda. But before we move to that, any other questions on the main report to the council? No? I'm not seeing anybody shouting. So for item 13, reports from the management committee. This is in the minutes of item 13 of your pack. I mean, I chair this as well because I'm normally just deputy chair of this meeting, and I'd look to Claire on any matters of bits and bobs being funded. But the main thing that we're discussing last time, where, as I say, matters catch up with us, is we were looking at what the income model and expenditure model looks like, and looking when we're in tier 2 to be trying to drive business to number of nights per week, with an eye to the fact that something worse may be coming around the corner, and looking at what staffing levels and what job what's the correct term, Claire, for the job support funding there would be, and then what furlough would be tailing off, and then all of a sudden that gets completely changed even in the 2 weeks since the meeting. So even after 2 weeks, the minutes are somewhat out of date. But we are trying to do our best. And the last time it was Councillor Vobe's instructions that we go and look at best value, keep the place as open as we can, but be as efficient as we can with it. That is the guiding light of all of us who give up our evenings to try and chart a way through the difficult times that we've got. Is there anything you want to add, Claire, to the sort of context? Because the minutes are there to be read. Is there anything progressing on any of the individual items in terms of bits of stuff that we were doing?
There's nothing necessarily that I want to put across, but just to reiterate your point about everything keeps changing, because I quite literally issued a letter to staff on Monday of last week, telling them obviously the furlough was coming to an end at the end of October, and with all the tier systems, what this could potentially mean. And then, it was like the letter was, and we're in tier 2, so this is what we're at, and then it's like tier 3 by Thursday, wasn't it? So
and then it becomes Monday.
Tier 3 on Thursday, so yeah, it was like. So by the time I actually had the meeting with them about the letter that was sent this Monday, everything had changed.
But we have, to be fair, they're called pessimistic, realistic and optimistic views. That's not correct the way that you could almost call them full closure tier 3, tier 2 sort of level. So we are trying to do our best. Have any members got any questions in relation to page 27 to 36 of the pack that we can't discuss in? You've not got your hand up, have you, Chris? No. Okay. Right. In that case, then I shall move on. Coming back to the agenda. Report from wards, please. Horton Green Ward. Friend, Matthews and Purnell. Anything to report? Any of us? I'm not seeing any hands raised.
No, there's nothing on those 4 streets at all now.
Peelville Ward, Sue, Chris and Tim, if there's anything picked up.
Nothing we've not already covered, Chair.
Excellent. Winwick Ward, just Anne.
No, nothing that won't be picked up in this part 2.
Excellent. In that case, we've got to date and time of the next meeting, which is Tuesday, 24th of November. And if my clock's running correctly, I'm still got 20 minutes left. I'll declare a short break of a couple of minutes if anybody wants to go to the Lord or anything before we move into part 2, and to give Julian time to take the live stream off.
Can I give my apologies for that meeting, please, Chair?
In November? You
Yes.
certainly can.
I shall be in hospital.
Yeah.
Chair, so you just need to formally move into part 2 and then I'll switch the live stream off.
Well,
please.
that's what we're doing. We'll formally move to part 2 and I'll ask the stream to be removed. This is where we should have a message from our sponsor, isn't it? Or one of the, if it was BBC, it would be coming up on November's meeting. Next